Alright, Shalom. Okay, double honors the apostles of Great Millstone. Alright, honest you brothers will be pushing this truth in sincerity. And all praise unto Yahweh Hashem outside. Okay, so back out here again for the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem outside. To get into the scriptures through his mercy, through his blessing, to be a part of this building of this house. Okay, to be out here. Okay. And you got a few things happening at the minute, okay, throughout this empire, throughout Babylon. Okay, you got World War III being prepared as always, right? The implementation of the chip, that's going out there on a massive thing. Okay, you got currently out there within the United States, of which I might get into the scriptures as concerning that. I'll go into the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. Then I go to my topic, which is going to be in the book of Ezekiel, dealing with the fall of Babylon, which I suppose Habakkuk the 2nd chapter goes into it as well. All right, so we go out there within the United States right now. You got a thing that's known as the debt limit. Okay, and I did a video about this, going into some details with various articles on what's happening out there. And pretty much what you have is a situation, and it's not just America, because the scripture talks about how as the leader of the people is, okay, so are the people going to be as well. Okay, so if you got it to where Babylon is on top of this beast, and this beast controls everything that happens within this world, well, pretty much everybody within this world, whether it be Moab, whether it be Ammon, okay, whether it be Japheth, or all of these different countries, what you're going to have is a situation where all of those different people there, they're going to conduct themselves as Babylon does, the Americans, because they're on top of this beast. In fact, let me get a real quick scripture on that. It's going to be in the book of Revelations, the 18th chapter, and I go to the point, right, which is in the 3rd chapter. So this is Revelations 18:3. It says, "For all the nations have drank of the wine of the wrath of fornication." So when you go into the book of Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, I believe it's in the 7th verse. The scripture pretty much tells you how that Babylon has been a golden cup within the Most High's hand. Okay? So that the Most High has used Babylon, alright, likened unto a golden cup to fill these nations with wine. Now, is that wine talking about, what do you call it, Sauvignon, Cabernet Sauvignon? Okay? Is it talking about a nice wine pressed from the grapes? Okay? No, that's talking about the philosophies of this world, because the scripture talks about, it likens philosophies as wine, right? So the scripture goes as far as saying they stagger, but they don't stagger with drink. They stagger with their philosophies. In other words, they fall by way of their understanding they have been given, right, by way of their leader, which is Esau. Okay, so Jeremiah the 51st chapter on the 7th verse says, "Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, and has made all the earth drunken, and the nations have drunken of her wine." Okay, doesn't mean to say, like I said, they bought Blossomil Zinfandel or something like that. It's those philosophies. Okay, so let's go into this again. It says, "Therefore the nations are mad." And that's what you're seeing throughout the four corners of the earth. To the end, the scripture says within the book of Amos, the 9th chapter, on the 8th verse, right? "Behold, the eyes of the Lord power upon his sinful kingdom, and he will destroy it from off the face thereof, saving utterly." He ain't gonna destroy the house of Jacob. Okay, so Jeremiah 51:7 again. Okay, "Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, and hath made all the earth drunken," right? "And the nations have drunken, and made all the earth drunken, and the nations have drunken of the wine of her wine, and therefore the nations are mad." Okay, "Babylon is suddenly fallen. Howl for her, take balm for her, that she may be healed." And that goes into what I'm talking about right now. Okay, now you're seeing the fall of Esau's empire, starting first and foremost with the United States. Okay, whether we're talking about is debt, of which this whole thing with debt is crazy. Going back onto the first principal point that I was making, that you got it to where these different nations, these different countries, China, all right, Japan, okay, England, they all work off of the same fiscal system. Okay, they all work off of the same ideas about money. Right, they're all laden with thick clay, as we're going to see within the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. Okay, all of these conglomerate of nations are working via the same ideas, and there's a reason for that, because you got it to where you got the elite banking families that have set themselves up right, since the dawn of the resurgence of Esau, as spoken about within the book of Revelations. Let's see if I can quickly get it. How that the beast was going to go into up there into the Caucasus Mountains, okay, for a certain amount of time, and when the spirit, the Most High was going to go upon these devils, right, to come back up into power, they was going to behave themselves as the scripture was going to prophesy. They was going to behave themselves. In other words, they was going to work with a system based on debt. That's what you have out there with this whole thing, this whole idea, okay, this whole idea of having a debt ceiling. Okay, that's where that whole thing stems from. Ultimately, it stems from the Most High, because the Most High set this kingdom up to be destroyed. And one of the ways that Esau is going to bring about this destruction, so he can try to reset it, right, is going to be by way of this this economy crash. Okay, so I quote with the book of Revelations, the 17th chapter, and the 8th verse. It says, "And the beast that thou sawest, and is, rather more, the beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend from the bottomless pit and go into perdition, and they that are dwellers on the earth shall wonder." Okay, so what's that talking about over there? Well, pretty much you had it to where you had the Greco-Roman Empire. Okay, they came up on the scene after the Medo-Persians, right? Because the Medo-Persians, they was getting in. They got their empire, right, by taking over the Babylonians. I believe they was the cousins to the Babylonians, or as the history goes. Okay, so after they taken over the Babylonian Empire, okay, and became the Medo-Persian Empire, furthermore the Medes took down the Babylonians, and the Persians came after, something like that. Okay, then you had it to where the Greeks underneath Alexander came on the scene. That's spoken about within the book of Maccabees, the 1st chapter. How the Alexander had taken down Darius, and the history says it was after 3 battles, Battle of Isis, and Battle of Granicus, or something like that. Took them down, and then they became the new dogs, the new big bosses on the scene. And it's all being the new bosses on the scene. The scripture says that they was, okay, and they are. Okay, but there's going to be a period of time when they was going to go out there and they wasn't going to be seen around anymore. Okay, the book of Job, the 30th chapter goes into that. Let me get that right quick. Okay, the book of Job, the 30th chapter goes into that. How that Esau was going to spend a certain amount of time out there within the woods, okay, being pushed forth among men, being pushed forth among people, and after a certain amount, after a certain dispensation of time, I like that word, okay, after a certain amount of time, he was going to come back into being in prominence. Okay, that's what we're seeing. That's what we've seen since the time around about the 1600s, where Esau was going to come out of exile, if you will. Okay, he was going to come out from exile, if you will, and he was going to build up these different empires. Okay, but the scripture says that he shall build, but the Most High was going to throw him down, man. That's spoken about within the book of Malachi. Okay, so the book of Job, the 30th chapter, and the 1st verse. And I'll see how much of it I'm going to read, because there's some good meaty chunks in there. So it says, Job the 30th chapter on the 1st verse, it says, "But now they that are younger than I have me in derision." Okay, right? Whose fathers I would have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. So here it is, you have a situation where even Job, and around about the time of Job, you got it to where Esau was basically seen as the least of the earth. In fact, the scripture goes as far as saying, especially Amalek, the least of the nations. So the least of the nations is going to draw him out. So you got it to where the Amalekites, the elite banking families, which are Amalekites, they're not Israelites, they're Amalekites, they're out there setting all of these different things up into motion. All right, but they're going to draw all of these people out there into what's prophesied within the book of Joel, the 2nd chapter, the book of Revelations, the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter. Okay, the mountain of troops, the valley of decision, the valley of judgment. That's where these elite banking families are going to set these people out into motion. But remember, these are the least of the people. Okay, they're viler than the earth. You're talking about a group of individuals that have no order. Okay, they have no morals. They have no spirituality. Because this man is, you look at Elam, you look at Moab, you look at Ammon. They got some similitude of what's known as spirituality. Especially out there amidst the Moabites, the Elamites. Now they might be going off. But when the Most High has it to where we're the rulers upon the earth, the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, the Israelites, when those people are in rulership, that spirituality, that inkling of spirituality that these different nations have, is going to be attributed to the truth, to the scriptures. Because the scripture says within the book of Isaiah, the 60th chapter, how that these nations are going to come to us, okay, saying, teach us your laws, okay? Now we're going to have the Lord's statutes, commandments of the Most High impregnated within our hearts. That's what's going to make us priests and kings, right, for perpetuity. But as for these nations, they're going to have to follow our laws, our customs, because we're going to be the rulers, and they're going to need us to teach them how to conduct themselves. But as for Esau, he's a man that he's the man of sin. He knows no spirituality. He knows nothing that's of order. He is the destroyer of the earth. Okay, this is the same person that puts barium oxide within the air. Right, that's open up the atom, right, to create some type of nuclear energy and doesn't know how to close it up. He's irresponsible, okay? And therefore the Most High is going to destroy him, because that reason for irresponsibility is not going to be no more needed within the earth. The reason for his irresponsibility, that's Esau, why he's created he's created weapons that destroy the very earth that he lives in, okay? He's created weapons that destroys the very earth that he lives in, okay? But the reason for that irresponsibility, that's going to be taken out up on the earth, because the main reason for that irresponsibility, as spoken about within the book of Psalm, okay, was to be the rod of the Most High's judgment against the people of against his people, the Israelites. So as the scripture says that the creature was made subject unto vanity, okay, when we was gonna go off, because the scripture says within the law, which is prophecy, when you do go off, I'm gonna send a nation up against you, man. And this is going to be a nation that's just a vile nation. They ain't going to have no mercy. And that's what happened. Here it is, you got it to where Esau's out there raping, robbing, and murdering, right? All of these different nations. That's because the Israelite nations, the people of the Most High, the Israelites, went off on the Lord's statutes, commandments of the Most High. Because these people were driven out there into the different caves when we was in that power of rulership seat. During that 1,000-year period, right from about the Holy Roman Empire, right up until about the 1600s, of the resurgence of the bourgeois. Okay? And I say the resurgence of the bourgeois because that was the same group of people coming back again, doing the same old dirty tricks again. Okay? So it says there within the book of Job, the 30th chapter, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision. Whose fathers I would have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. So that you wouldn't have had them sleep with the dogs of the flock. He regarded them less than the dogs, man. And when you see these Edomites and how they conduct themselves, you pretty much figure out that these people are beasts. Okay? They're less than dogs, man. At least a dog is honorable. Right? Esau is less honorable than a dog. And that's how he was seen within the within the times of the great kings, man. That's how he was seen. That's how Esau was seen. You're talking about when King David had Edom underneath his foothold, okay? And therefore having Edom underneath his foothold, because the scripture says that what? Edom was going to have the fatness of the earth. So when you look at the whole trade routes, the King's Highway, and how that moved through Moab and Edom and so on and so forth, okay? You pretty much find out that Esau was in the fatness of the land. He had all of them produces coming from all those different countries through his realm, okay? He had all of the good stuff, the goodies from these different nations, from the far east, coming through his land. So he had the fatness of the earth. But when the Most High had it to where King David, being a righteous king, had the foothold on these Edomites, we had control over those things, man. But not only that, the Most High had it to where, King David had it to where you knew how the value of an Edomite back then, right? Before that, okay? So let's go back onto the scriptures right here. So it says, this is Job the 30th chapter on the 2nd verse. It says, "Yea, whereto my strength, the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness." Okay, right, in the former times in the desolate waste. Okay, because these people are pushed out there into the caves, and we're gonna see that within the book of Job, rather more the book of Obadiah. Okay, how that he came out of them different caves. He set up this empire that you have out here. But the scripture says within the book of Revelations, the 17th chapter, the beast that was and is, right? And for a period of time, he was not going to be anymore, but he was going to come back up into his power, but only to be destroyed. Okay, we're going to see that within the book of Obadiah next. But after the book of Obadiah, I'm going to go to the book of Habakkuk. That ties in with the current news that's happening out here, with this whole thing of this debt ceiling. And they're probably going to raise the debt ceiling depending on how their time schedule works and when they want to unleash this chip. But it's going to come a point where they're going to say, look, we can't expound beyond this point. So they're going to have it to where, look, that's the debt ceiling. You've gone to the limit of the debt ceiling, okay? Now you're going to have to put austerity measures out there, and you're going to have a spiral of financial decline out there within the United States that's going to ricochet throughout all of these different countries. Because the one thing about having a world reserve currency is this: when that world reserve currency is devalued in that country, within America, the whole spending power that he has throughout the four corners of the earth, okay, is going to be the same. It's going to be devalued. Okay, it's going to shake things up within the markets, and that's what these different financial analysts were saying. They're saying it's bad even just talking about the financial debt ceiling out there, because it's bad for the whole entirety of the economy. You got it to where you got these different businessmen that got safe havens out there in these different. They see these different safe havens. They're saying, look, let me go invest my money over there, and I'm not going to take it out there into America. But this all goes back onto the thing of overspending, overconsumption. Okay, which is the thing spearheaded by America, which is the thing spearheaded by Esau. Okay, to get you more in a more deprived state, in a more state of debt. So when he brings about this chip, you wanna go back to any state of normality that's possible. Okay, and that chip spoken about within the book of Revelations, the 13th chapter, which I might get. It's a good scripture to get, because that's one of the main remaining prophecies that we're waiting for. Okay, so it says this is the 4th verse, Job 30 and 4. It says, we cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They was out there eating roots and different things, and the Most High did that as a spiritual thing, because they were building up their immune system, they were building up themselves physically and ergo mentally. You take a look at how the modern days people's diet is, and the people that are so-called healthy, the people that are saying they're so-called healthy, they're into the stuff Esau was eating out there within the woods, man. Okay, so they're on a higher mental functioning capacity. Okay, so it says here, and they were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as a thief, because as you're going to see within the book of Obadiah, okay, the scripture says that look, if a thief came, he would have left some grapes on the vine. But Esau is a man that's just going to take everything. Okay, that's why when you go to the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter, it says that what? It says that the nations are going to be at ease after Esau is destroyed. Right, he who smote the nations with a continual or stroke is destroyed. That's what the scripture says about Esau's, how he conducts himself. All right. Job 30 and 6. Right, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, in the rocks, among bushes they braid, under nettles they will gather together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were violent than the earth. And you see how an average Edomite conducts himself. No spirituality, no order, no morals, okay? No stopping point. And what I mean by a stopping point, when you look at your average Israelite, your average Jacob there, he's got a point where he's like, no, that's too much. Okay, he's got a point where he said like, and Jake is vile too. The scripture says that how that what? That the Israelites have gone beyond the wickedness of the wicked. Okay? But they got some type of morals and laurels and spirituality that they some code of conduct. Esau has zero code of conduct. Okay? When you're talking about his government policies, that's a government policy that he wants you under. But as for himself, he wants to live outside of that. Case in point, you look at the Israelites, the 12 tribes, the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, whither they may be, the scripture says that these curses are going to follow us. Wherever these Israelites are, they get penalized, right, for going against the order of this society. But Esau, when he goes off against the order of this society, they get slapped on the wrist, okay? Because he's violent in the earth. He's even his own conduct, he doesn't even follow it, because he's naturally he's vile, okay? So let's get back onto the scriptures right here. It says, now I'm their byword, yea, I am their, Brother Moy says, now I am their son, yea, I am their byword. Okay, so we go into the different curses as pertaining to the Israelites. It says that what? That the Most High was going to have it to where we was going to be a song amidst these nations, right? A nigger, okay, a wetback, or hell, a Hispanic, an African. Those are bywords. Okay, that's not the name of these people. That's not the name of these people. The Most High has, he said he has espoused us. He has surnamed us. Okay, and he surnamed us what? The Israelites. So when you're hearing these terms, West African and African American, those are not terms that the Most High has come up with. That's the terms that these different people, these Edomites, have come up with, right? To be a song, to be a byword unto the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, to where those words, African or West African or whatever, okay? Those are a light thing in comparison to what they say behind closed doors, man. Okay? So let's go back on with these scriptures. The book of Job, the 30th chapter and the 10th verse. And it says, and they abhor me, they flee far from me, they spare not to spit in my face. Okay? Right, so let's go now into the book of Obadiah, because the point pretty much is hit on that. Okay, so the book of Obadiah, and I've been getting into this a lot, this scripture here, because, you know, it goes into all of these different things that's going to happen right now. Okay, so this is the book of Obadiah, right? The future prophecies that are coming about upon the earth. So the book of Obadiah now, and this is going to go into a similar sort of thing, or build upon the picture that we've seen within the book of Job, the 30th chapter. So let me find that right quick and go in on that. Am I going to be on that? Bear with me. Okay, so the book of Obadiah, and I'm going to start from the 3rd verse. I'll start from the 2nd verse. So Obadiah 2 says, "Behold, I have made thee small amongst the heathen, thou art greatly despised." So the spirit of the Most High put upon Esau, okay, to go out there into these different nations, to rape, rob, and murder, to steal, right? To steal without ever being satisfied. Okay, he's lack of pigment. Okay, he's greatly despised amidst these different nations. Okay, you go out there into the Middle East, they hate Esau. Go out there amidst the Chinese, the Russians, even their own people hate them. Okay, and that's why the scripture says that how a house, if Satan's house is divided up against himself, how is he going to stand? Well, the simple fact of the matter is that the Most High built this man up to be destroyed. We read that within the book of Revelations, the 17th chapter. Okay, so when you have it to where these people, they're going on their day-to-day business as if to say we're in a state of peace and safety, as pursuant to the book of 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter, this ain't no state of peace right now. This is a state of where the Most High is beginning to walk. Because you go into the scripture says that he was going to be, for a period of time, as the Greco-Roman Empire, he was going to exist. Okay, he was going to get pushed forth out there into the mountains, right into the bushes. Okay, was he going to break? Okay, but after a period of time, he was going to come back into power, but only to be destroyed. And he was only going to come back into power for a statement the Most High was making. Look, this is what happens when you're wicked. This is what happens when you touch the apple of the Most High's eye. But here's the beautiful thing about that: ain't nobody going to be able to touch these people. When you read about the second